Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Clockedin with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Clocked In with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey guys, we got a special guest here today. We got Dr. Greg Persley. He's the belief systems expert. So Greg, I got to ask you, what's a belief system? Do we all have them?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Jordan. A belief system is simply put a thought that you repeat enough times with enough emotion that it becomes your automatic habits. A really great understanding of that, or easy way to understand that, is if you've ever driven a car, you started learning how to drive a car. And the first time you get in, you really had to consciously think about it. You had to think about all the buttons and all the knobs and turn this and push that. But after you do it for a while, it becomes second nature. And a belief system that's what it is. It's second nature. It's not something you have to think about. And we all have beliefs about ourselves, our environment, what we're capable of, money, our health. Are we good enough? Are we worthy? Blah, 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 down the line. And it all comes from repetitive thoughts with enough emotion attached to those repetitive thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's so important for people to understand what a belief system is, because like you just explained it so well, because a lot of us are walking around with poor belief systems, like your book and your tagline, fix your BS, fix your belief systems, because a lot of us we've been so conditioned by life and so beat down by life that it's just like, that's the way life is. And the truth is, that's not the way life is. Life can open up in any way you want it to be. And that's why today we're going to jump into Dr. Greg's story, where he breaks beliefs throughout the entire time. And that's why I was excited to have him on, because he shows what his current belief was, how he had a transition, and his new belief. And we'll just go through that the entire time throughout the story. But so where did your journey start?
Wow, where did my journey start? So I'll go back to when I graduated as a chiropractor at 23 years old. I had a wife and a child when I graduated, and we basically moved 2 hours away from our family and started to practice. My wife quit her job, so it was basically sink or swim. Now, my belief at the time was, I'm invincible. Nothing. I can do this. I can make it happen, and so that really pushed me to work towards succeeding.
Yeah.
In 2 years, we took the practice that we had acquired and we had over doubled it. And so we were moving in the right direction. We're living this American dream. My wife was pregnant again, and we're going to have a son. So we'd have a daughter and a son and a business and a house and, the white picket fence, American dream. Well, our son was born, and he was born with something called dwarfism, which is a random genetic change in the third trimester of pregnancy. And so it was totally unexpected. And so when you have something that comes into your life that's totally unexpected out of nowhere, it really shakes your beliefs. It shakes you and what you thought, where you thought you were headed, what you thought you knew. It shakes you to the core. Your beliefs start to get changed, or at least it makes you aware that maybe there's another possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the day he was born, they told us, hey, this is what's going on. And we were like, well, what does that mean? And how did that happen? And all of a sudden, this future we were building was totally shaken and changed. Anyway, so then he, within the first year, he ended up spending about 6 months in the hospital because he kept having lung issues. He was, had a lot of pneumonia developing. He was having issues with breathing problems. Like, it just snowballed into this thing where he was spending more and more time at Children's Hospital, which was 2 hours away from our hometown. And I still had a business that I had to run because that was only our only income.
But
And my
at
daughter's
that,
being passed around the family, like it
at
was chaotic.
absolutely. And at that point, I just want to butt in really quick. The
Yeah.
chiropractic thing, that business, were you mostly the main chiropractor there? Meaning, were you
It
like,
was me and it was only me. It was me and two other employees. That was it.
so, so when
Like
people
I
think,
was the only provider.
so when people think about that, it's like Greg's wearing two hats. And I just want everyone to understand this, that he's a business owner, but he's also the one servicing everything he's doing. And when it's a high intensity job like that, that's not easy because if you don't see clients, there's no income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
so
can
there
be
was
very difficult.
definitely, you talk about stress. We had financial stress, we had parental stress, we had relationship stress, chemical stress from what we were eating, because obviously we weren't focused on our health. We had mental stress, emotional stress, like you name it, man. We had it. It felt like the world was on our shoulders. And so what happens when that occurs, you start internalizing. Now, this is where things happen. Like, you start repeating the same thoughts and you're highly emotional. So the thoughts that I was repeating was creating emotions of like anxiety and fear and frustration and scarcity and all these really limiting emotions or limiting beliefs that started to develop. So when people hear that phrase, limiting beliefs, it's the belief that is limiting your ability to see things past your thought process. Does that make
Yes.
sense? Like,
Yeah.
that's what's
Yes.
limiting about it. It's
A hundred.
limiting the vision about the possibility of what's out there.
And that's why a lot of people, when you look at people who acquired great wealth or jumped groups or did anything, you look at who they're surrounding themselves or what events they go to or who their coach is, because it does break those beliefs that a lot of us have about ourselves. And it can be a very challenging one. And I find that a lot when I talk to clients. It's like I had a client who never thought he could travel. And I'm like, you're working remote, man. You can travel wherever you want. Like, and now he's going on a road trip, which is incredible because for him, his limiting belief was that he had to live in an apartment like everybody told him to and just live his normal life. And I'm like, you don't have to be normal. You can be different. Different is good.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the point, though, is that he couldn't see. There's a statement, you can't see the forest through the trees, right? It
Yes.
means that you can't see past what you're really focused on, and he's focused on the fact, which is in his mind the belief, the fact. And people say that all the time. Well, the fact is, I can't because, and you're like, first of all, that's not a fact. That's a belief. And secondly, because anything that comes after because is your justification of that belief. Well, I
Yeah.
can't do that because blah, 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 blah. And you're like, that's not a reason. That's an excuse. Let's label these things what they really are. Like,
I,
people do this a lot with weight, and they do it a lot with money, and they do it a lot with their job. Well, I can't quit my job because I'm like, whoa, time out. What if you could quit your job? What if you could? Just saying, what if you could start that business? What if you could write that book? What would that look like? I mean, let's have an imagination game. You don't have to take action on any of it. Let's just play with our imagination on this. That's where the first step that I always talk to people about is creating a vision. Because
yes.
in the Bible, it talks about without a vision, men perish. Okay,
Yeah.
you perish without a vision. And I really think that's what happens to people is they forget what their vision is, and they get so limited in their beliefs, which I call it the box. The box just keeps compressing on them and getting them closer, and then they get bound up, and then they just end up like talking like people from Boston. Yeah, just so upset. It's like, whoa, chill, man. Like, let's relieve the pressure. Most of the time, those walls of that box are built from yourself and your own ideas about what's possible.
Yes.
So the the most fun I have with clients that I work with is like, what is a perfect day to you? What does
Yeah.
that look like? What if you could live that? What would that feel like? And just watching them fight and struggle to like break out of their own box that they've built. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how to look at that. It's like, yeah, right. Because you've been practicing the other thing for so long. So this is a practice that you have to develop over time. It doesn't just happen immediately, and it doesn't just stay there. You have to practice it, just like you practice the opposite, which was limiting yourself. I can't do that because, and all those thoughts.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I completely agree with that. And I was talking to people about the abundance mindset, and I was
Mm.
just exploring it. I'm like, what would be something of abundance to you? And like, what would be your like Ramit Sethi? He's the one, the financial guy, and he talks about the
Mhm.
rich life. And I'm like, what would your rich life be? Like just playing around. And they start to name things. It's funny because you name things that you already do, right? So like one of the
Yeah.
people was like, I'd love to go to a sporting event. Dude, you've gone to 20 this year, obviously. So
But
you know,
let's dive into that. Hold on, but dive into that for a second. I want to go to a sporting event. Okay. Which one? Why do you
yeah,
want to go? What's great about it? Like you really
yeah,
define, okay, well, what's limiting you from going now?
a
Is
hundred
there a
percent.
limit?
And well, that was the
But I
realization.
want,
And that was the other
yeah,
thing, that it was that these people, whatever their abundant thing was, they were still doing the activities, but they were still in that scarcity mindset, even though they're doing the activity. I'm like, this is what you wanted to do. You should
but
be excited
you know what
about
that's
this.
called?
Yes.
You know what that's
No,
called though? You
tell
know what
me.
that's called? Okay.
No.
That is called gratitude. It's called
Yes.
appreciation. When you're doing the thing that you say you want to do, you got to
Yes.
be grateful for that thing. And if you're not, then really you're not in the present moment. Because if you're not,
Yes.
if you're always in the future, well, I want to go to games or I want to go to this event. Okay. If you're at an event or you've already done those things and you're in the event thinking about the next one, well, I really want to go to that other one. Okay, well, you're thinking in terms of the future. You're putting your happiness out there somewhere instead of putting your happiness now. That's called being grateful and appreciative of the moment, of the present moment. Because I can build whatever life I want to build if I believe that it's possible for me to do that and I'm moving toward it. But I do want to make a clarification because people think in terms, they say abundance, like you mentioned abundance. Abundance, if you look at the definition of abundance, abundance is nothing more than a very large quantity of something. Okay, so I
Okay.
want you to understand abundance doesn't mean a lot of good things. It just means a lot of things. It means a lot of
Okay.
something. So you can have an abundance of negativity. You can have an
Yes.
abundance of poverty. You can have an
Yes.
abundance of limitation, an abundance of lack. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you define abundance, when people say talk about abundance, I'm like, define that for me. What do you mean? Well, I want more money. I want a lot of health, a lot of happiness, a lot of a better job, a better car. That's what they really are thinking in terms of abundance. You're like, okay, so that's not abundance. Abundance is a lot of something. Let's talk in terms of what's the perfect life of the emotion that you want to experience. Because that's what you need to experience first and get the emotion down. And once you get the emotion down, the life starts to develop.
Yes. And I think this is really important, just for the audience who's listening, is that Dr. Greg's talking about the words we use and the detail we need to go into, because a lot of times that's missed. Like I just said it very loosely because I didn't even think about it, but you're bringing up a lot of good points where it's like it's okay to understand, but we also have to be very careful of what we're saying, because you might
Mm,
just get what you like. Like some people are like, I really like surprises, and it's like you like the good surprises, you don't like the
hmm.
bad ones. We call those
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins said that, and it's just a very fascinating thing because it's true. We speak very freely, but it's how do we find out what's really best for us, and how do we create that happier life? You know what I mean? How do we create that fulfillment we're looking for?
Well, you create it now is the answer to that. You create it now. You become habitually grateful. You
Yes.
become habitually appreciative. It's a habit. to be
Yeah.
happy. It's a habit to be grateful. It's a habit to be appreciative. If you can't find happiness, gratefulness, and appreciation now in your life right now, with no matter what's going on, you will not find it by acquiring other things or climbing the corporate ladder or getting married or having a baby or whatever. You won't find it there. You have to
Yes.
find it in you now. And that's
Yes.
what people forget. They don't know that. They're searching for it. And I did that for years. I get it. You're searching for it. You're like, when I get a better house, I'll be happy. When I make more money, when this occurs, I'll be happy. And what you're doing is putting your happiness in the external instead of putting your happiness in the internal. If this occurs, I'll be happy. Well, you can't control most things outside of your body. So why would you take that risk? Why wouldn't you say, you know what? I'm happy and content with myself now in where I'm at and what I'm doing and the things that I'm accomplishing. And because of that, I'm proud of me and I'm happy with me and I'm appreciative of me. And I'm moving toward this vision, but that vision doesn't have to happen in order for me to be happy because I'm just happy now. And here's the funny part. When you can get to that state of appreciation, gratitude, happiness, and you're aligned with yourself, the things that you want happen quicker and easier. The uh, random acts, random things occur that people call luck. It's not luck. It's the fact that you have emotionally become in alignment with the possibility of that future. And all of a sudden it starts to happen really quickly. Dr. Joe Dispenza is great at describing these things, but he talks about living in the quantum field, not in the physical world.
Yeah.
You live in the quantum field. Once you live in the quantum field, things can happen instantaneously. Time, space, and matter don't matter
Yeah.
like physical matter. They don't limit you
Yeah.
because quantum realm doesn't have that. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting looking into that. But learn for yourself. Like I give advice, but people need to figure this out on their own and work toward it. It's a process. It doesn't just happen in overnight.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think this is a good reminder for anyone listening of like, what are you grateful for? What is something that you could come up with? And it could be a multitude of anything. It could be family, friends, it could be your home, it could be your job, it can be it could be that you have fingers, it could be that you have
Yeah.
hair, it could be that you can smile. It's that
Oh,
you
you
go
had to bring the hair
outside.
up, did you? Had to bring the hair up, huh? Did yeah, yeah, I went there, did you? Oh, looking right at me. No, it's funny though. There's a second part to that people forget. So they say, "Oh, I'm grateful for," and they
Yeah.
list a bunch of things. The second part of that is how does it feel to be grateful for that thing? That's the part. The emotion is the fire. That's
Yes.
the saying, oh, I feel grateful for, or I am grateful for, whatever. That's like the spark. But the emotion is the fuel, the fire, the thing that explodes it. You go, how does it feel to be grateful to be alive in the time that we're living in? How does it feel to be grateful for your house or your car or your spouse or your job or for the money that you do have? How does it feel? Like the feeling, the emotion, that's the language of the body that says, oh man, that's awesome. If you just say it's not it's not impactful. Oh, I'm grateful
Yeah.
for this. I'm grateful for that. No, no, no. Who cares? No, that's not. You got to talk to yourself internally, like your soul, and go, you know what? I am so grateful for that my wife and I have such a great relationship and that she's stuck around all this time
Yeah.
because I've made some dumb moves and some bad mistakes and some things that I should have done differently. And yet she's right there by my side. Man, that feels like it brings tingles to your
Yeah.
spine. It makes you have goosebumps. Like I don't just say it, like I feel it. And what does
Yeah.
that make me want to do? It makes me send that gratefulness, that appreciation to her through my actions. Like you can feel it. When you can feel when somebody's pissed off at you. You can
Yes.
feel when somebody's grateful and appreciative of you too. And so
Yes.
when you feel it, it translates over to the other person. Now, a lot of people come to me and talk about money. I want more money. I need more money. I always talk about money as having a relationship, as if you had a relationship with a significant other. How you think about, feel about, and treat that money is going to directly result in how much money you're able to have. how much money you're able to use, attract, how much money that comes to you. Because most people have a feeling about money of, you're never around enough. How come you're never around when I need you? How come it's never enough for me? Well, if you treated a person like that,
Yeah.
then they would leave you. And that's why
Yeah.
most people cannot or don't have money coming to them like they want, because they push
Yeah.
it away and they don't even know they're pushing it away.
Yeah, and it's also, so I want to bring up 2 points. I think you brought up one major point, which is the emotion that we can create and that we have inside of us with the gratitude. So there's definitely levels to that experience and where it is. And then number two, the words we use, like we were talking about earlier, the words we use, like when people say, I'm just getting by, like, or I just made ends meet, I go, you just made
Hey,
ends meet.
hey,
Like,
how you doing today? Oh, I'm doing all right. Well,
yeah,
doing all right. Dude, I'm freaking fantastic. I am wonderful. I am freaking I'm lit up.
yeah,
Today's a great day. How you doing today? Well, it's a Monday. Well, what is okay? What does that mean? No, it's not a Monday. It's another day that you're alive, that you get to do something. Let's expect something amazing. You know, the most successful people that I know, they expect success. It's an expectation. I expect to win. I expect to have success. I expect to have a great day. Now, it doesn't always mean that the day is going to go exactly like I want, but whatever happens, my expectation is that it is for the better good of me. It's for the better good of my life, and it's moving me in the direction. So when something occurs that I feel is uncomfortable, or I feel discomfort with, I go, what is this trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this? What is this trying to do for me? How is this sculpting me into a better person? Oh, now my expectation is that this is working for me and not against me. Most people use everything that happens to them as it's working against me feeling. And when you have that feeling, then you're expecting to lose. You're expecting to have negativity from whatever event that occurs. You have to understand, like, success is not something you chase, it is something you become. You
yeah.
become a successful person, then successful things occur to you.
Yes, and
Like,
that's what a lot of, like, I listen to Jim Rohn and he talks about that a lot, where it's like it's not the ability of making the money, but it's like who you become and what the caliber of what you accomplish, and like that's being a person of your words. So like even today we had a podcast and like we had it at 2. The timing wasn't the best, but we were both on. And then the situation, we just had to push it back a little bit. But we were both very respectful and on time to the minute, where it was like, that's a man of your word. That's a success principle. That's a successful trait of somebody, regardless of the money, but it's showing up when you say you're going to show up and being in a place when you say you're going to be in a place. Like, regardless of what it is, I'm here. Like,
yeah,
I can't
it,
control everything, but I'm here. And that's the
right.
important thing. And it's that understanding.
It's in order to be so when you talk about money, a lot of people say they want to be a millionaire. Okay.
Yeah.
And being a millionaire is obviously not easy, or becoming someone that is a millionaire is not easy, because so many people say they want it or say they want to do that, and they don't go through the process of becoming that person. It's like saying it's like an acorn saying I want to become an oak, and then you plant it and it's like, yeah, but I don't want to do the work of growing into the oak. I just want
Yeah.
to I want to be the oak. You're
Yeah.
like, you're going to need to go through some changes in order to become that oak. Well, if you have very little money and very little resources, or if you have some resources and some money and you say, well, I want to become a multimillionaire, the first million is hard. And the reason why it's hard is because you have to go through that growing pain. But the cool part is the second million is inevitable, because
Yeah.
you've developed the habits and you've developed the emotional wherewithal to understand that you are valuable and you are a millionaire. Like, the first million, yes, it's tough, but the second million is inevitable because you've become a millionaire, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you've physically and emotionally become, not the money. I can give somebody $1,000,000, but they're not a millionaire. They will lose it, they'll screw it up, they'll mess it up if they don't have the emotional wherewithal to understand that I can use this money for me, and I have millionaire habits.
Yeah.
So that's when we talk about beliefs. It's like, okay, well, what are
I'm,
your What
What
are
do
your
you
habits that you automatically have that allow you to succeed or not?
100%. And with what you've been seeing, what do you think are some of these habits that people carry? And what do you think some of the
Well,
beliefs?
the first habit is they're not aware. They're not aware of their thoughts. They're not aware of their emotions. They're not aware of their habits. They're not aware of the things that they're doing right now. Is it driving you in the right direction? They're not aware of a vision. They're just not aware. They're running on some automatic program that of a belief, of conclusions that they've made throughout their life, and they're running on that program and they're hoping that it turns into a life that they want. That's not the way
Yeah.
it works. You can't hope a life that you want into existence. You have to have you have to become aware and create an action plan of a vision that you're trying to create, and then you become grateful and content no matter what, whether that vision comes to fruition or not. I can tell you, when you become grateful and content with what you have now, that vision is more likely to come into fruition, and a lot quicker than you can ever possibly imagine. That's what
Yeah.
I've experienced. So, it, I listened to Jim Carrey say one time, he goes, as far as I can tell, it's asking the universe, telling the universe what you want, and just taking action toward it without any expectation of getting it.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
so hard for people because they want to control it. They want to control the outcome. Like, you know
Yes.
what? I have this vision. I really like it. I think it would be great. Universe, God, please, can I have that? I'm going to take action toward it, and I have faith that you'll give it to me, or something along those lines. And if it comes to fruition, fantastic. If it doesn't, I'll be grateful and content and appreciative of whatever I do get. And guess
Yeah.
what? In the abundant universe that we live in, you generally get more than what you're expecting. Now, if
Yes.
you're expecting bad things, if you're expecting scarcity, if you're expecting negativity, you're going to get more than you expected of that negativity, of that
Yeah.
scarcity. Just so you know, it works in both directions.
Yes. And I enjoy that distinction because most of the time people don't bring that up. And you keep bringing that up where it's like, hey, it's not even that you're compounding in the correct direction, but it's like you can compound in the negative direction as well. And like we just need to be aware of that. So
Yeah, look at what most people say. How come this always happens to me? How
yeah.
come I can never get ahead? And these are
Yeah.
the thoughts that go through their head all day, every day, and they're not even aware of them.
Yeah.
Well, and you can tell in their responses to questions. You can tell in their emotions, or their reactions. They're just their physical reactions to stuff. Well, I just ask them little questions. Hey, man, how you doing today? I'm doing all right. I mean, like, just pay
Yeah. No, it's
attention. Freaking become
well,
aware.
well, it's also around the environment that you're in, and you can tell when it's not usually one person, it's usually the entire environment that acts a certain way in a certain caliber. So for you, let's go back to your story. So your son, I think we were back at where your son was born. He
Yeah.
was in and out of the hospital. You were working full time. You're trying to figure this out.
Yeah, and I was in my mid early 20s at the time, 25, and so really confusing time for my wife and
A
my
lot of
family
people.
and me
Yeah.
and a lot of people, yeah. And so so he ended up having had to have a trach put in, which is a trach is where they do a tracheotomy, and then he had a tube in there, and a vent that helped him breathe, literally helped him breathe and supplied oxygen and pushed air in and out. And so that's called full life support, really is what it's called. And he had that on and off. He For the first 3 years he had it full time, and then he started to get better. Then he got RSV, and then he had to have it again, and then he got better. And so when he was 8, he finally got off of that thing. So for 8 years, we
Wow.
basically focused on keeping him alive and keeping the family together. Now you can imagine we were living in the fight or flight scenario for 8 years. It was keep him alive, keep the family together, anxiety, fear, worry, all these scarcity type of things. So the reason why I wrote the book, Fix Your Belief Systems, Fix Your BS, is simply because in 2018, I had to change my beliefs about who we were and what we were capable of and what was acceptable for me. And
Yeah.
when I started to go through that process, I realized there were principles that you can put in place. I always talk about the three-step shortcut
Yeah.
in order to get whatever you want in life. Well, the first step is have a vision. The second
Yeah.
step is take action every day toward that vision. The third step is get rid of all control or expectation of when and how that will occur. And that's the
Yeah.
hard part. That's the faith part. That's where faith comes in. And it's so hard for people because they want to control it and go, oh, how long should I wait for this? And it's just like, look, wake up and be grateful that you're moving in the direction of that thing, whatever occurs. That's kind of the 3-step,
Yeah, no, I
shortcut.
I think that's awesome. And that whole faith part, I think the way for people to understand that also is to just reorganize the way you see things. So, for example, some people would sit there and go, Jordan, podcast 155 episodes. Why are you still doing this? What's the point of doing this? Is there any value? And like, you have to
Who
start.
says that to you? Because I'd kick them out of your life. I would stop hanging out with them.
No,
They're,
I mean,
they're knocking your dreams down, dude. They should be lifting you up. They should be, dude.
100%.
Hey, wow. Do you enjoy doing the podcast? Then who cares if it makes money? Do you enjoy it? Is it filling you up? Is it lighting you up? Is it part of your purpose?
The thing I was going to say with the parameters is like what a lot of people don't realize with the podcast is it's my way of meeting people. It's my way of making new connections. It's my way of creating content. It's my way of putting everything in the way that I want it to be and building out my network in a very strategic way where you get everybody you want to speak to on. And it's like, oh, that guy's cool. Come on. This guy's cool. Tell me about it. What's happening? Yeah. And it's just the reframe of a lot of these challenges is the best way I found it to be successful because there's a lot of challenges that you're going to sit there and go, why am I doing it? Like, what's the point of it? Like, and you start questioning yourself. And even as Dr. Greg said, even better, like, don't allow those people around you. But if you become that person, you start questioning it, you're going to have to do a reframe. You're going to like, there's probably times when Dr. Greg handling his child, handling the business, how is he doing this? Like, you know what I mean? You start to sit there and then the sun pushes through. It's incredible.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that it was just an awareness that I had to come to because the awareness came in a question. It was, can I keep doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it the rest of my life? Yes. And the answer I knew inherently, like it was no, I cannot. This is not the way my life's going to go. And so the question became was, well, what do I want to do then? Like, what if this isn't what I want? What do I want? And that's step one. That's where you create the vision. You go, what do I want? What if there were no parameters? What if there were no limitations? What would I want my life to be like? Because people go, oh, I can't do that because, and you go, no. Just because you have the money you have now and you have the relationship you have now and you have your house you have now and the job you have now doesn't mean that that's where you're going to be. If that's what you're focused on, then guess what? You will always be there. So you have to go, what do I want my life to look like? And then you just write it out, man. You just create it let it flow. Don't justify it. Just let it flow. Like, what would I want? How would that work? If the universe is abundant and it supplied me with whatever I wanted, what would that look like? And then you just write it out. And it should make you pretty excited.
And this is and I just want to pause really quick because this is a great action step for everyone to do right now as you're listening. Pause the podcast for 10 minutes and write down everything you think. And when you think you're done, you say, what else would I like to do? Because your 5-year, 10-year goal should not be, I just want a promotion. There should be travel. There should be your physical body. There should be where your family is. Where do you want to travel? Where do you want to live? Where are these located? Like, get really detailed and granular, not this. Yeah, I'm on the path. Like, don't I'm on the path, me. Like make sure these are good.
You're on the path to where? You're on the path to where? Where are you going? Where's the end result? Where's the destination? We're going on vacation. Where? I don't know. Like, you got to know. You got to know where. Like, you're going to travel. You're going to plan the travel. You're going to have tickets, and you're going to make sure that you know where you're going and how to get there. And that's the point of creating a vision. But yeah, once you start creating that vision, it should light you up and get you excited. But what most people do is they compare the vision to where they are now. And then they get kind of sad, or they get kind of depressed, or they get like, well, it's too far, because you're thinking in terms of physical reality. You're thinking, how much work and how much stuff am I going to have to do in order to get to where you want, like the vision that you're creating to get to where you want to go. You can't think in terms of that. You have to think in terms of, well, it's possible because I'm thinking about it. It's possible because I'm writing it out. Like, it is possible. Just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean anything. What the second part is taking action toward it. Well, when people say, well, what action should I take? The action you should take, if you sit quietly and you go, okay, let's envision this vision. Let's feel emotionally this vision. Let's really put myself, what would it be like to already have these things? Once you do that, what'll happen is ideas will start to pop up. And this is the second step. This is the action. This is start taking action on the ideas. What I call it is acting on your highest passion at all times. So you take
Yes.
action on the ideas. I need to call this guy. Why did I have that idea to call this guy? Because your brain is trying to figure out how to get you to the destination that you have told your subconscious mind is important. So if
Yes.
you become aware of this process, it's like, oh, now I know how my brain works. So you keep using it and keep repeating it. And then you become very good at it because you've done it a lot. You've
And
also become very good at the opposite because you've done it a lot. So this is the second process, the better
this is
process.
this is also really important because the constraints we put on ourselves, we don't realize it, right? Like, so if you're making $50,000 a year and you're like, how am I going to accumulate $1 million? How am I going to create this dream life? You're not going to ask yourself, how can I make 50,000? Like, I'm going to keep making 50,000. No, it's what do I need to do? What needs to change? And those are the types of questions. Like, what needs to change to make this vision occur? What can happen to make this vision occur? And when you ask yourself bigger questions, your brain will give you those answers that you're looking for. And it's not always the quickest one. You might be in the shower and then you're like, oh my God, I know this guy, and I can connect them, and then we can make money. Like, there's a lot of different ways of thinking about it. So I think that's a really good point.
Well, yeah, it's called imagination. And a lot of people don't use their imagination. They don't really tune into their purpose. They don't really get aligned with it. They just kind of, like I said, go through the habits of their life. And that's why they're really depressed or sad. See, like I think people that are depressed and sad and really, just frustrated with their life, they're just not in alignment with who they really are, the things that light them up the most. And if you make a list of all the things that light you up the most, and all the things that you're doing, like make those two lists, all the things you do all the time and all the things that light you up the most, that get you the most excited. If those aren't overlapping a lot, then of course you're going to be sad and depressed and upset. And I was there for a long time. I like playing music and playing golf and playing guitar and singing and traveling and going to concerts and teaching people and reading books and discovering new things and all this like stuff. Well, if I had written all that out at the time, it was like, well, I'm not able to do any of that right now, or I'm not doing any of that right now. And of course, I'm going to be like, well, this sucks. Well, yeah, you're not doing the stuff that you love to do that light you up. Now, I'm not saying you're going to run around doing only the stuff that you love, but let's say 80% of the time you're doing things that make you really excited and you're really lit up about, then the 20% really won't matter. But if it's the opposite, where you're doing 80% of crap that you don't like doing, or more, 90%, and you're only doing things you like to do 10% or 20% of the time, well, of course, you're going to feel like out of balance. You're going to feel like your life sucks. You're like, man, I don't know. I can't find the energy. You can't find the energy because it doesn't light you up. Like, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's a guy's golf trip and you're like, dude, I'm so excited about this. And now you have energy and excitement. Well, yeah, because you're doing something you love to do. Like, you should plan for that stuff, become aware and start working toward it. You only get this one life. You just got to, keep fighting for it and keep working toward it. And you're going to have great days. You're going to have, hard times, but guess what? Those things aren't going to last. You're going to have great times. You're going to have hard times. And you want to do as much in the middle as you possibly can, that light you up and make you excited. And just that, then that becomes your baseline.
Yeah. And it's also super important to remember that the way you feel is not who you are. Like, people say, I am depressed, I am this, I am that. That is not who you are, because there are times where you are excited, and we're constantly changing emotions. So we should become aware of that you are a person and you can change at any moment.
Well, the
And
phrase
it's
I
not,
am is
yeah,
very powerful. The phrase I
yeah,
am is very powerful. People should be very careful with that phrase. I am is you telling, you're telling the world, but you're also telling yourself who you really are. I am abundant. I am constantly looking for opportunity. I am healthy. I am grateful. I am appreciative. See, these are the things that I state all over over and over and over. But if in your mind you're saying, I'm so frustrated, you just said, I am so frustrated. So your brain, literally, if you repeat that enough times with enough emotion,
yeah,
feeling frustrated,
yeah.
then your brain will start to look for things that make you more frustrated. It's literally the way your brain works. That is your subconscious mind, which is what your
Yeah.
belief systems really are. Your conscious mind is what you're conscious of, which is why I said you have to become aware. Awareness
Yes.
is consciousness. You're becoming conscious of your thoughts, conscious of your emotions, conscious of your habits. And if you repeat something consciously enough times with enough emotion, your subconscious mind will start to believe it and you will become a new person, which then attracts other things that are like that new person into your life. Better relationships, better jobs, better opportunities, better money, better whatever. And so that's
Absolutely.
the thing you should consistently try to work towards.
Absolutely. So how was that transition for you, and what did you go from and to change your whole life
Well,
and your
I
perspective and
went
your
from
vision?
being frustrated. I went from being depressed and sad because I didn't know my future. I wasn't happy with where I was. I wasn't happy with where I was headed. I wasn't grateful. I wasn't appreciative. And so I can say now I live a majority of my time being grateful, appreciative, happy, fun, light, because it's easier when the energy is lighter. It's just life's more fun. You can breathe easier. You're not so heavy. That doesn't mean I don't get into positions where I'm I don't feel good or I'm not, like I get
Yeah.
into moments where it's like, oh, but I don't stay there. I don't live there. It's
Yeah.
like 5% of the time. Because you have to make when you're an entrepreneur and business owner, you have to make hard decisions, and those things can feel emotionally like turmoil. But ultimately, if you get really good, they call it entrepreneurial intuition. If you're really good at listening to your soul and your heart and your that subconscious, like bad things that have occurred in business, if I remember back to right before making that decision, there was something in me going, something feels off about this. But my brain said, nah, you're fine. We've looked at everything. But that feeling told me, something's off. And I trust that feeling. But unless you're aware of yourself, you're not going to be able to know that feeling. Like
Yeah.
unless you're aware and pay attention to the emotions you feel after you've made decisions and connect things. See, most people, when they have something occurs in their life and they're like, oh, I don't like that, they blame something and they've lost the opportunity to learn about themselves and about their decision making process in that moment. And when you lose that, then you have the possibility of making the same choice again, which leads to the same outcome, which makes you feel unhappy and sad and depressed or whatever. And so
Yeah.
if you understand that process, anything that occurs you should use as something that is working for you, good or bad, positive or negative, feels good, feels bad, doesn't matter. It's working for me. What is this trying to teach me? So that way I grow and become more a better individual over time. That's what maturity is.
100%. And you have to be accountable for all of the things that occur in your life, whether they're good or bad. So just to give the audience a little more perspective, what externally occurred when you made those shifts in your life? Like
Well, the
when you
first thing
went,
is, yeah,
yeah,
first thing, I became a new person immediately. I made a decision. I said, I am not going to be the victim of my circumstances anymore. And I made a decision. I said, I'm going to take control. I'm going to stop whining. I'm going to become a man and I'm going to freaking man up and start making better decisions with better thoughts and become aware of my actions. And so the first thing that came to me for that was I reached out to a friend, started having a conversation with him. We went to, he said he was going to this conference, and I decided I'd go, and I figured out a way to pay for it, even though I didn't have the money. And then I went to that conference and I bought the best ticket you could buy. And that moment, because I had a different experience, changed me because I went, I am worthy to sit in the front row. I'm just like all these other clowns that are making a lot of money, and I am worthy of money and I am worthy of success. And that worthiness turned into making different decisions and having different conversations and saying different words, and it moved me in a totally new direction because I felt worthy. Felt,
yes,
you know what? It's not arrogance. It's not I'm better than anybody. It's I feel worthy of wealth. I feel worthy of success. I feel worthy of happiness. And that feeling repeated enough times turned into who I was. Now people look up to me and go, "Man, you just seem so happy all the time." I'm like, I am. That's who I am. I just
yeah,
Do you understand? Like I've that's just who I've become. I am lighthearted, successful, happy, wealthy, all these things because that's who I am.
yeah. And what conference was this, and what was the big like change that occurred after you left the conference? What happened to you
Yeah.
where it's like, because a lot of people are in like the day to day and they're like, I'm like, what is it that actually changed?
If you're in the day to day and you're unhappy, then you have to identify, you have to become aware. I said it again, become aware of what you're unhappy with. And then you
Yeah,
have to become aware of what it would be like to be like, what would you like your day to be happy? Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen instantaneously, because it was a process. It took me, 3 to 4 years to really, be good at this. But what happened was, is I decided to go and I went to that conference and I realized that, maybe I do belong here. This is something that I could do. And then I started to gain momentum and I started to talk a little bit different. And I started to reach out to different people and I started to have different friends and different people in my inner circle and my network. And they were all thinking positive and about
yeah,
opportunity and about entrepreneurship and about growth. And so that's what we were talking about. We weren't talking about things that suck and the economy sucks and the interest rates are
yeah,
so hard and money is so tight and da, da, da. Dude, people make money in good economies, bad economies. That is an excuse. You're saying it's a reason, but it's an excuse. Money is there
yeah,
to be made if you are aware of the possibility of opportunity. And you only become aware of that when you have other people around you and you are focused on looking for, expecting to find
yeah,
opportunity and potential. And that's what you should do. I would say though, the biggest mistake I made in my entire career is being in a hurry, not
yes,
understanding the pocket of being present and going, you know what, I'm content and I'm happy with now, and I'm working towards something better and I'm becoming better because I'm working towards that. But that doesn't mean I'm discontent or unhappy or ungrateful or unappreciative now.
yes,
So when I became centered into that, content, happy, appreciative, grateful, that's when I was feeling that a majority of the time, shoot, I became unstoppable.
yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's super important for people to realize like what it is they want, and it's all an internal game. So you have to change the internal, and then the external will change, and it will take you to a new direction. And like I think Greg brought up a really good point regarding changing the environment. Not too often do we find ourselves changing environments because we're comfortable with those people. And maybe you like your work, or maybe you like your friends, or maybe you like whatever. But sometimes it takes, you got to invest and change the environment that you're around, and that will change the way you think about things. So, for you, Greg, what is your biggest recommendation for the audience in regard to transitioning their life to looking for that opportunity, creating those groups? I mean, we've touched on a multitude of different things today, but what do you think would be the
Just,
top one?
just 2 words: know thyself. You got to know yourself. You got to know what you want. You got to know who you are. You got to know who you want to be. That's it.
Yeah,
Know yourself. Know yourself. Now, how do you figure that out? You Some people call it meditation, some people call it prayer, but you got to get quiet and you have to ask yourself, what do I really want? Quiet. I mean, no distractions. Don't think about the things you have to do or the future or where you're at or the things that you've experienced in your life, the things you like or don't like. Who am I? What do I want? What if my life was just the way I wanted it? What would that look like? And just sit there and ponder. I'm talking for 15 to 20 minutes. Put a timer on your phone so you're not worried about how long you've been sitting there. Get quiet. It can be dark. It doesn't matter. Just try to get comfortable. Shut your eyes and just start pondering. What would my life look like if I had it just the way I wanted it? How would that feel? What would that be like? Take some breaths. Just be present in the moment. And when you start doing that on a regular basis, which initially it'll be clunky, your brain will kick in and go, well, how are you going to do that? You don't know how to do that. Like, I can tell you the exact house I want to build, and I'm not there yet. I don't have it, but I can tell you exactly what I want. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can tell you what I want. All I know is the challenges and the things that I'm working on are that I face today are building me into the person I need to become to actually have that thing. And I don't know when and I don't know how, but I know it's going to happen. So, but that's because I've spent a lot of time knowing what I want, who I am, what's important to me. And most people don't do that.
I would say most people probably plan more for Friday night than they do plan their life, and I think that's just a wake up call for the audience, for everyone to sit there and think about, like, what do you want, and whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 60 years old, like, figure out what you want in your life and how are you gonna. You don't even have to figure out how you're gonna create it, but you just have to know the directional awareness that you're heading towards. Because I always like to tell people, like, it's okay as long as we're taking baby steps, even if we're crawling, doing whatever, as long as we are trending in the correct direction. Who cares? Because you're going the right way. That means you're on your path, and that's okay. I think that's awesome. Dr. Greg, you have been amazing. Where can people find you, hear more about you, reach out?
Instagram's the best spot. At Dr. Greg Persley. I mean, that's just the best way. I put a bunch of stuff on there, and I've done a ton of podcasts, and we have my own podcast, which is Fix Your BS, about belief systems. But I mean, I do a couple things really well. I have a regenerative medicine clinic called PC Medical Centers. We work on improving patients' outcomes by using natural processes. We don't use meds, steroids, or surgery. We help them improve the function of their bodies. As you know, I'm a chiropractor, but I've turned more into the CEO because we're growing and developing clinics and other clinicians. But and then I help practitioners that are stuck in their practice become, the CEO owner of their practice. Those are two different skill sets. But and the Fix Your BS world is all about, how do I help people just become aware of themselves and aware of how to get the life they want to get, and become happy and content. Because, like, your life is the emotion that you spend the most time feeling. That's what your life is. Like, that's how people know you. Like, oh, they would describe you as a frustrated person, or a depressed person, or a happy person, or a aloof person, or a sad person, or a successful person. Like, where you spend a majority of your emotional time, that's how people know you. Well, you have to know you. How do you want to feel? Like, what would be the emotion that you want to spend most of your time in? And how do you get there? And that's when you start working on you. And then guess what? The external world starts to change because of it. So
Yeah,
go to my Instagram. They can find me there, or they can look at our website, fixyourbs.com, if they want to go there too. But I'm just here to serve people, man, and help them, and try to help them grow and become better. And re-listen to this podcast 4 or 5 times. There was so much great information in this. Like, people don't understand, those are principles of life that I'm talking about. They'll never
yeah,
change. They're the same things that have been talked about by other people for ages. I'm not like some guru that came up with this stuff. This is, you plant a seed, it grows into whatever that seed is. It doesn't change. It's the same thing. Well, this is the same thing. Processes that have been used for thousands of years. So jump into it. Watch this episode 4 or 5 times. Check me out on Instagram and direct message me if you have questions or need anything. I'm here to serve, help, and guide.
absolutely awesome. And yeah, this is a reminder that this is the awareness that you need. These are the steps inside of here to change the direction of your life and change what you want it for the better. So thank you, guys. Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there, and have a great day, and keep clocking in.